Curcio, and I would love to welcome you here to Lisa's Stamp Studio. Oh, I've got a treat for you tonight. In addition to the couple demonstrations I'm going to be doing for you, I have 4 completed cards to share with you, all using the layering stencils technique. Now, you might think this sounds simple, and it is, because you're going to be able to create beautifully impressive cards in just minutes. And as always, I've got a bunch of tips to share with you, and I've got a stamping tip I'm going to throw in there tonight. Now, before we get started, there's a couple things I want to let you know about. First and foremost, I would love to chat with you. So if you are here for the live stream, and today is Monday, January 17th, and the year is 2022, log into your YouTube account, and then you'll be able to chat with us. But if you're watching the replay, I am so glad that you have come by, but you can leave a comment as well. I come back and I read every single one, so your feedback is very important to me. Thrilled that you are here with me. The other thing I want you to know is about the free project sheet. When tonight's live stream is over, I come back and we put a link down in the video description below that you can navigate yourself over to the pictures, the cutting dimensions, and all the supplies for all 4 cards I'm going to share with you this evening. No guesswork, just all the information there so that you can duplicate them at home. I'm using some new products tonight too, and I'm really excited about showcasing them as well. And then finally, I want to take just a moment to introduce you to Gina Curcio Hawley. You'll see Gina's name here in blue, and there's a little wrench next to her name. She is my daughter. She is also the sales and marketing director here at Lisa's Stamp Studio, and she moderates these lives to help interact with you because I cannot keep up with the comments and stamp at the same time. So she's here to answer your questions and provide links along the way. I think we're all ready. Let's get started. The very first thing I'm going to pull out is going to look kind of funky to you. This is, excuse me, the weather has changed here in Florida and my voice gets a little raspy with it. This is my cutting and art board. Now it looks very much just like a regular little cutting board, except for it's a lot thinner. And I love it for watercoloring and when I'm using stencils, which is of course what we're going to do tonight. Now the tape that you see here is just a piece of low tack frog tape that I kind of curled up into a little circle. This is going to hold my cardstock in place, and I love this because I'm not chasing it all over my work surface. The best part about this too is it's going to contain all the excess ink onto the board and keep my work surface clean. And that's really important, and we're going to talk about that too when we do a little bit of inking here. Now, I love this tape so much that I linked it for you. It's not a Stampin' Up product, either is the art board. But you're going to be able to find the links for these over on my website at lisastampstudio.com. And if you click on the shop tab, about 4 little buttons down, you'll see my craft room favorites. And that's where you're going to be able to find these. I love these things. They help me when I'm stamping. I just thought I'd share those links with you. Again, these are not Stampin' Up products. All right, so I've got some tape here to hold my cardstock. And I am going to grab a piece of white cardstock here. Now I'm going to recommend that whenever you're doing stenciling, you might want to work with a piece of cardstock that's a little bit larger than you're going to want when it's finished. Because you may want to die cut it with a shape, you may want to cut around it with a die. Whatever you're doing, I recommend something a little bit bigger. Now I am using a brand new set of dies, and these are called Butterflies and Flowers, and I love it because it's abundant. Wait till I show them all to you. And you're going to see that this one particular has 2 sets here, and you can see that they overlap. But I'm going to give you some tips about this because I learned depending on which one you use first, you can get quite a different look with this. Now there's other pieces here, and I'm going to show you how those work as well. So I'm going to position this here in the center of my cardstock. Please keep in mind when you're using stencils, you can go any which way that you want. So I'm going to center it where I want it, right here in the middle of my paper. And then I've got some extra pieces of low tack tape here. And I love this because you can use it over and over again. Now I want to give you a little tip about the low tack tape. Even though it's low tack tape, sometimes it's still a little bit tacky for your cardstock if you push it too hard. So my trick is to either take it to my jeans and kind of lift it up. That little bit of lint helps. And if you're not sensitive to adhesives, I kind of just put it to my hand. And the oils and lotions from my hand help to break that down just a little bit, just in case I happen to push it too hard. I don't want to rip that paper when I lift it. Now I'm going to be very generous with this because I want to cover areas so they don't fall onto the cardstock. So I've got a couple other pieces here, and you're going to see me cover up those flowers because I don't want to stencil those. And then I've got another piece here. This is going to do two things. I've now anchored this to the board, and I've also covered up what I don't want, which is going to make this foolproof. The next thing is you're going to need a blending brush. Now here in the studio, I have blending brushes that are dedicated to each of the color families. You're going to want to make sure that you have them cleaned off well before you use them. So let me give you an example. So for instance, I use this one in my oranges, okay? But I know I'm going to go from one shade of orange to another. So you don't want to carry it over into your ink pads and muddy them up. So I just like to rub off anything that might be there, and you're going to see that it runs clear. Even though there's a concentration of ink on here, don't worry. Now the blending brushes with Stampin' Up are among my absolute favorites ever. The bristles are super soft, they're super fine, and there's a whole bunch of them put together. And that makes the blending process flawless. Now for this particular card, I am going to start with the Pale Papaya ink pad, a very light peachy color. Let's go ahead and open this up, and I'll leave this up here near the top of the screen on your view. I am going to take that brush, and I like to hold it this way, and that's because I have basal joint osteoarthritis. So gripping like this is very difficult for me. It's painful. So if you suffer from that, here's a good tip. Hold it from the head, and I'm just going to rub a little bit of ink on those bristles. Now, because I know I've taken it right off the ink pad, sometimes that concentration of ink is too high. So what I like to do is rub just a little bit off just to make sure it's not too heavy, because there's nothing worse than starting off too heavy and then you can't take it away. Remember, we can always add more. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to swirl on some of that color within those little areas here. Now you're going to see as I work around the stencil that I am working in small circular motions. And that's going to be really important, especially when we come to the layering portion of this. Now I'm going to work down here and I'm going to cover the same thing. Another tip for you about stencils, what it looks like from the front is not what it looks like from underneath. This template material is really deceiving. It may look really, really light from the top, but when you move this, it tends to be quite darker from underneath. So if you're ever not sure, you can kind of peel up the tape, take a little bit of a peek, and then put it back down so that you have an idea. I know for today, I kind of want these a little bit more heavy-handed, so I'm kind of going over them in a circular motion. And it is normal when you are using the blending brushes to have some areas that are darker and lighter than others. That's completely normal. Okay, I'm going to close this up for now, and what I'm going to do is I am going to lift off the tape. Now I'm going to tell you right now, I've learned from experience, the worst thing you can do is not take your time, because if you think you can kind of just connect all these and start ripping it, if your tape is fairly new and not well worn in, it can rip your cardstock because we've done a lot of pressing there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove all those top layers here carefully. Again, you can reuse those. And I'm going to work over here to the side, and we're going to remove this one as well. And I love putting them on my artboard so that they're ready to use, and then I'll lift this one. Now keep in mind that there is ink over the top of the stencil. I don't know if you can kind of see it, but it's wet. So be cautious with your hands. We are going to slide this stencil over to here, and the very first thing I want you to do is I want you to line it up, and I want to give you a tip about it. I like to look here in the center of my circles. That's where I'm trying to align this. Is it going to be perfect every single time? No, it's not intended to be, and I absolutely love that. So what we're going to do is we're going to secure this down again so that we don't have to fight with it. I'm going to come across there because we don't want to pick that up. And then I'm going to come across here and do the same thing here. I'm going to take one more piece and anchor this down. I am switching now to a complementary color. This is Calypso Coral. Now, one of the things you're going to want to keep in mind when you're stenciling is that if you're blending two opposite colors on the spectrum, you can maybe end up with a really yucky color. So keep in mind that you want to use hues of the same color, or be cognizant that yellow and blue are going to make green. Now you remember that brush? This is my orange brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to rub off excess color here on my scratch paper to take all of that off. So in case I'm going from darker to darker, I'm not carrying that over to my ink pad. You are not going to want to dab on top of here. Let me give you an idea. This is Calypso Coral. I'm loading up some ink. I'm not going to come on top of this area. I'm going to come off here to the side. The reason is this is probably still damp, and that can be picked up into my brush. So then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work in small circular motions over the top of that existing stencil that we just laid. This is the layer. Now, do you see how thin those lines are? Okay, take your time. I have also found that depending on how much ink that you put here really will change the whole look and the color of this project. So I'm picking up more, not coming here. I can come over the same color, and then I'm going to fill in the next one. It's very therapeutic. This is a project that you absolutely can do while you're watching TV. It's even one the kids can do with you. Lots and lots and lots of fun. So I'm just going to kind of swirl over this and just add a little bit of additional color. Look, I got a little bit outside the lines and I didn't mask that. Good news is I'm going to actually die cut this, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that in just a second. All right, so I think you get the idea. Now, I get a lot of questions about how you clean these. Since I have one dedicated for each color family, I don't clean them. I actually just rub off all the excess ink on my scratch paper, and I know this is dedicated to all my orange hues. If you don't have that privilege, obviously, you can clean them underneath tap water. You can use a light hand soap or a dish soap. You're going to want to leave them air dried. I have personally never done it, but I have been told that it works like a charm. So you're going to want to be very careful and let that air dry. You don't want any water down here to penetrate to the top or from the bed of the brush to the bristles when you're using ink. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to push this one off to the side for just a second, and let's go ahead and let's remove the tape. Are you ready for the magic? This is where the whole layering stencils comes into play. Wait until you see these results. And then I'll place some of this tape up here because we're going to do another demonstration for a different layering stencil technique that I want to share with you. Look at that. Is that not just amazing? Now let's talk about how you clean these. Just tap water. I just rinse them out till they come clean, and then you can pat them through just a lint-free rag or a dry paper towel and let them sit and air dry. Okay, now to take this off of here, remember we've got that rolled tape here on the back side. So I'm going to be very, very careful, and I'm going to save that because obviously we can do one card after another with this. But let's finish up this card before I show you the next project. What I decided to do was I decided to take out my Stitched So Sweetly dies, and I absolutely love this die set. So you've got different size labels here, which are great for greetings as well as images, and I love these stitched scalloped frames. So you can use this as actually just a focal point, or you can put two together to make frames. Fantastic. I took out the largest one, and I did do that ahead of time, and I die cut this shape, which really was wonderful because I went outside the lines of my original one too. So be cognizant to use enough tape. And that left me with this. Isn't this pretty? All right, let's put this card together, and then I'm going to teach you another layering stencil technique. I have actually got a piece of pumpkin pie cardstock here and a piece of designer series paper. Now, we never used pumpkin pie ink here, and this is where Stampin' Up! Is famous for their color coordination because their ink pads match their cardstock and their markers and so on and so forth. But because of the blending, you're going to get a beautiful hybrid of color. So this allows you a lot of flexibility to use the products you already have, your designer series papers and cardstocks, because it creates almost a new tone. So I'm going to slide that off to the side because this is the card base. This is just 5.5 by 8.5. I'm going to go ahead and use my bone folder for that nice crisp edge. And I am actually going to begin by layering these two together. Now my silicone craft sheet, which is my beloved little tool here in the studio, has some of my tape on it. So let's move that over. And I love this because adhesive, liquid glue, and hot glue will not stick to it. Now I want to clarify, when I say glue, I mean liquid glue. The fine tip glue with Stampin' Up! Has a bit of a lacquer base, which is why it dries completely clear and creates a glossy finish. It's going to require some rubbing alcohol to get off. I want to make sure that I mention that. So I'm going to come around here, just a little bit of adhesive around my perimeter. This is my Stampin' Seal Plus. I am not a liquid glue girl unless I absolutely have to. I love a dispenser, A, for the arthritis, and B, for how quick it is to apply. This came from that Peach Designer Series paper. Isn't this pretty? And then I'm going to go ahead and layer this here. Again, I just looked through my Designer Series papers to see what was going to work. I didn't make a big fuss out of designing my card around a paper I had. And then I'm going to flip this over, and let's go ahead and let's add a little bit more adhesive here to the back side. And because the Stampin' Seal Plus is so strong, I decided not to go too crazy with it and do every little inch of this because I know it's going to adhere itself. Back here to the card base because I've made that mistake before. Anybody else? Making sure that the crease is on the proper side, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere this here. Remember that free project sheet is going to have all the cutting dimensions. Now, this in itself would be really pretty, but I thought it was a bit much. So I brought in this. This is a piece of vellum. I think it's a product that's not used enough, and I absolutely love this product. What it does, it provides an opaque finish. So when you put it over those bold designer series papers, it breaks down the pattern just a little bit, but it doesn't take away from the color. So let's go ahead and let's adhere these together first. That's an important tip I want to share with you. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You can add this with dimensionals, or you can add adhesive directly over the top. I am going to do dimensionals because I want to give you an important tip about double layering. So I've got my dimensionals here. I love them that they're pre-cut pieces of foam tape. I'm going to place one in each of those four corners and one in the center. My next favorite tool is this. This is the Take Your Pick tool. There's a putty tip that helps you pick up those small sequins pieces of cardstock. There's an interchangeable tip here that dials in and out. It comes with double-sided stylus tool. This is a little spatula to get up underneath there when you make a boo-boo. Fantastic. It's $10 US price. Once you buy it, you are set. So I'm going to remove those paper backings with that Take Your Pick tool attachment. That's going to make it a lot easier for those arthritic hands. And then what I'm going to do is take this piece of vellum now, and I'm going to just border that on top of here. Trying to keep my head out of your camera view because I've got a little bit of a glare from the lights. Now what I want to do is I want to add this to here. Now one thing about vellum, if you've worked with it before, you know that if you place any adhesive here, it's going to show. So I want to elevate this layer again. So I'm going to turn this upside down, and I am purposely not going to place these dimensionals where these other ones were. We are going to work in another area. This is going to create proper balance for your card. I am going to work off-centered here now on the other side of this one, and then we're just going to remove those backings. You can go ahead and place them just shallower of your corners if you'd like. My best tip for you is just not to lay them right on top because you're going to get a little bit of wobbly there. You know that your cards are going to go through a mail meter at the post office, right, for postage. So you want to make sure they don't come out all what I call kitty wonkus, right? Now, I took the privilege ahead of time of taking a greeting. This is from the stamp set, threw it together, and I stamped it and heat embossed it with white embossing powder. Now, it's very detailed, and I chose not to do that on camera. I've got great videos here on YouTube on how to heat emboss. But I want to add this to my card. So let's flip this upside down, and this, again, is where my Take Your Pick tool is going to come into play. When you're working with these little tiny pieces of cardstock, this just kind of acts as my other little hand and allows me to get into those little small places. And then again, we'll remove those backings. This now, I'm going to be very careful because I have a dimensional here and there's elevation here. So I'm going to work all the way here to the bottom of my vellum, and I'm going to attach it across the bottom. And then, of course, my last thing, of course, has to be an embellishment, because if you've watched my videos before, you know I can't stand it if I don't have any bling on it, right? Now, these are the brand new classic matte dots. I love them because they're basic. You have white, you have vanilla, gray, and black. Perfect for every project. And wait till you see what this little bit of white does. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to pick up one of the large ones. Love that they have glue dots already on the back, so I'm going to place one there. And then I'm going to take a smaller one, and I'm going to place that on an angle here. And then we'll take one final one, and let's place that down here. And I absolutely love trying to create that triangle for the eye to form to create that beautiful stencil card. Very, very simple. And if you're not into heat embossing, you obviously can just stamp this. And you know what? Sometimes we just need a blank card, don't we? Just a blank note card. And this is perfect for that. Now, I've got another demonstration for you, but I want to mention something to you. If you absolutely love Stampin' Up! Products and you have a huge wish list like I do, celebration is going on right now. For every $50 in product that you spend, you can choose something from here for free. And I said every $50. If your order is $100, there's even several products in here in the $100 category. But I want to talk to you about this because I don't think it's getting enough airtime. Stampin' Up! Is doing an amazing starter kit promotion. Now, this starter kit is completely customizable, which means you can choose whatever products you want to go in your custom starter kit. You're going to choose $125 of product. You're going to pay only $99 with free shipping for your kit. But here's where it gets even spicier. They're letting you throw in any 2 free stamp sets of your choice with this starter kit promotion. It is only available during celebration, so it's going to end on February 28th. One thing I want you to know is that celebration stamp sets and host exclusive stamp sets are excluded from that promotion. All right, let's move on to our next project. Wait until you see this one. So we're going to take a little bit of a twist, and I'm also going to give you some stamping tips about this one. I'm going to make sure my tape is good and rounded there, and I'm going to grab another piece of white cardstock, bigger obviously than I'm going to need, and I'm going to tack that down. This time from that exact same package of stencils, I have pulled out these. Now, this is intuitive, right? But we're not going to do that. I'm going to suggest that you position this on a bigger piece than you're going to need so that you can trim it down. I'm going to put this near the top just for grins on this card. And let's go ahead and grab that tape once again. And we're going to work over this area. Do you see this? I don't want this flower on top of my butterfly. So I'm going to mask it off so that when I'm using my blending brushes, I don't end up with that on my cardstock. Very much like what we did before. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to anchor this to my artboard. I'm telling you what, this artboard is a game changer. If you like to watercolor, you are going to love this. Because of the surface of this, it's going to ensure that it doesn't penetrate and get soaking wet. I just use a paper towel and clean that up as well. And I just want to make sure I've got this good and covered. I think I got a smaller piece. Well, I think they're about the same actually. All right, let's go ahead and let's just anchor that down. So all I have now showing is just the area that I want to stencil. Let's switch brushes, because I know if you're like me, you're probably a purple fan, right? Wait till you see how gorgeous this is. We're going to start with Highland Heather. And again, like I said to you before, I have a brush dedicated to color families. Now for this one, I am going to be sure that I'm turning my scratch paper so I have a clean area here to do any extra rubbing off in case my brush is too dark. So I've got my Highland Heather. Again, I'm going to grab it by the head because I'm just sympathetic to those arthritic hands. Gonna get it rubbed to make sure I got it flowing kind of nice. That's a little light, but I'm okay. See here, here, and here, you're gonna wanna be careful, my friends. You're gonna wanna make sure that you're taking your time, and if you have to, kind of swoop in the direction this should go. You don't want that to lift. And if you're like me and you get creative and you're starting to get really excited about the way that it looks, you're gonna wanna go too fast. So don't be afraid to load your brush, take your time, and then fill in your areas. Now for this one particularly, you're going to want to take your time and fill it all in. I'm going to go around and around, and I do want to fill this whole thing in because I want to give you an important tip about our next layer. As I had mentioned to you previously, this one obviously is intuitive. It fits over the top of this solid image like we just did with the previous card. Now this package of stencils also includes other images, and I can't wait to share those with you as well. There's a lot of fun inside this packet, and I don't know about you, but stencils are one of my favorite things because they're affordable and they're versatile. You can use them in scrapbooking, you can use them in card making. They're great to make really quick tags and packaging ideas. All right, so there we go. We've got our layer of Highland Heather. I am going to switch over now to a darker shade of the same color. So this is Gorgeous Grape. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to leave that off here. Just like we've done before, I want you to take all that excess ink off. It's a great habit to have, especially if you're working with 2 strong pigmented colors, because you would not want to transfer this to your next ink pad. All right, I'm going to navigate myself up to a clean spot. Gorgeous Grape is a lot darker. You're going to see that here. And now what we're going to do is we are going to get ready for the next layer. But look at it. It's nothing like it looks. This is just a bunch of little daisies from that exact same packet. And I am going to anchor that stencil down again. So I realize we have lots of tape, but you know what? I love that I don't have to worry. Everything is held down, it's ready to go. And now what we're going to do is we are going to stencil right over the original background. Now, if you feel that your ink is wet and you're afraid that you're picking it up, here's another tip for you. I'm going to go ahead from my drawer and I am just grabbing one of these. It's a Post-it note. You can use a scrap piece of cardstock too. And what I like to do is put my hand there if you're afraid that any ink is going to transfer on a piece of paper that you're being strategic to add the color in a place. And then we're going to go over here and we're just going to add a little bit more ink. and we're going to work in small circular motions right over this. Again, because there's another layer of stencil here, it has now protected those fine little areas from the butterfly. But you want to make sure you get all those little nooks and crannies as well. So again, loading up my ink, brushing it off, and then coming over to the side. All right, I think you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and just stop now. And I'm going to close up that ink pad and then wait until you see this card. It is really, really, really stunning. All right, let's go ahead and let's take off the tape. And this is where all the magic comes in. And then I'm going to take this one off as well. And again, I save these. I use them over and over again. But wait. It gets better and better and better. And let me just peel this back so you can take a quick glance at it, because boy, do I have a card for you with this. Look at that. Is that not incredible? Isn't that beautiful? So pretty. But are you ready? Here is the completed card I did creating that. And here it is. Again, I worked on a larger piece of cardstock. I made sure to navigate towards the top, just like I did on the first one. I'm going to show you this too. Do you see how this one, I was more heavy-handed than this? No two cards are going to come out the same. So experiment with the layer and the depth of the color that you're providing. The great thing about these brushes is they can hold a whole lot of ink, which is why I take my time and I rub off some of that excess so that I can control the coverage. Very simple, monochromatic placement here. Designer Series paper matches, the beautiful ribbon. I use that bow maker in my craft room favorites because I can't do this by hand. I linked that there for you. But let's talk about this. I want to show you this. This greeting comes from another stamp set, and it's called One Happy Family. And I have really enjoyed using this because perhaps like you, the vast majority of cards you create are for family members. And we've got everything in here from birthday to retirement to graduation and pregnancy and all kind of fun things. But what I decided to do is I did not want to use the whole thing, just be you. So I want to teach you 2 ways on how to omit. And this is another amazing technique for card makers. So we're going to flip this over. And way number 1 is to use a marker. Now this is a dye-based marker. This is not an alcohol-based marker. Super duper important. You're going to want to use the thicker end of the tip. They are labeled by the line. And you are going to want to color in just the area that you want. So I'm going to use the side of the marker. I am not going to damage the tip of my marker because obviously I can use that to color in images, and we don't want to fray that tip. So sideways, lay down your ink on top of the marker, and then you're going to huff on it. I call that the Darth Vader. All right, and you're going to get just what you wanted from that stamp. Now just off camera, I am cleaning that on my Stampin' Scrub stamp cleaner, and then I'm going to come in with way number 2. And this uses a household product. Let me pull it out. I've got here a piece of household tape, all right? I am going to create a small tab on one end. That's just going to make it a lot easier for me. When your words are separated, ample space between them, it's going to be easy for you to use this. And this is great if you don't have the marker that you want and you have the ink pad. I'm covering up the word just. We are going to take our gorgeous grape ink, which is the exact that we had used just here in the marker, and we are going to ink this up. I'm just going to make sure it's good and stuck on there. We're going to ink this up. I'm going to remove the tape. Oh my gosh, is that an important step? You'll make that mistake once, just once, and then we're going to stamp that here. So we have got the same thing to provide an omitting technique for you to use your stamps. And I love to teach you this. And the reason is because when you buy your stamp sets, don't just look at the whole phrase. Look at some of the ways that you can use them individually. For instance, this is a great example. If the goo goo gaga is too long, just use goo goo and put gaga on the inside. Sometimes too, you can just use the word celebrating or just the word happy. It's a great way to expound on your purchase. So this is one card. Now I have a couple others for you. Keeping with that exact same theme and that exact same stencil, this is the card using the stencil as it was intended. Now, of course, it's got tape still on it, so let me go ahead and just carefully remove that. Again, you want to take really good care of your stencils. And this piece obviously goes over the top, and this is how I created this. This is Pool Party and Bermuda Bay. Use some of that beautiful white glittered organdy ribbon, did the exact same thing. 2 different color palettes, totally 2 different cards. Now I'm going to slide this off to the side with this one because I have one more that I want to share with you. But I want to show you the stencil first. Just a piece of paper here so that you can actually see it. So here is the stencil itself. Now you'll recall the first stencil that we use also included these flowers here. Do you see them off to the side of the camera? Believe it or not, I did a bunch of experimenting and they all work together. Oh, I thought that was brilliant on Stampin' Up's part, and I'm going to show you a card with that. These other stencils are also included. Look at that. It has a little bit of a bohemian flair, and I love it. I think it's fantastic. And then here is the other one. And when can we not use greenery? Great for masculine cards as well. I'm going to tell you what, you will not be disappointed with these 6 stencils inside this package. Now remember those flowers I just talked to you about? Look what I did. Now this in itself is stunning because of the color palette. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I've told you that if you don't know what to pair with a color, always add black. You are going to get the most bang for your buck every single time. So I use 2 shades of colors here to create what looks like multiple tones, doesn't it? So this is polished pink and the beautiful magenta. And I love these colors because together they are so striking, aren't they? But let's call your attention to this. Do not overlook the amazing Thanks dies. This is offered as part of a bundle with a coordinating stamp set where you can buy the dies separately. I realize they're mirrored here. Over my website, you'll be able to see them beautifully. But you are going to get that bold outline and you're able to get the script that lays over the top. And it's perfect because you can use them independently or together. So again, we've done some layering stencils tonight to give you lots and lots of ideas on how to create your cards. I would absolutely love to know which one of these is your favorite. If you would, leave me Oh my gosh, that's what happens when you give Lisa the mouse in a live stream. I'm sorry about that. Would love to know. Do me a favor before you go. I would so appreciate a thumbs up here on YouTube, which is a like. It helps us to keep our content free, and it helps us with YouTube immensely. Second of all, if you are not subscribed, you're going to want to do that because I'm coming back live with you next Monday, which is the 24th of January already. My gosh, this month has gone by quickly. It will be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And finally, head over to my website at lisasstampstudio.com. If you're brand new there, scroll down and click the subscribe button, and you'll get my free weekly e-newsletter where you are able to enjoy a free PDF tutorial that I don't share on my other platforms. Thank you so much for being here. And remember, if you're interested in those catalogs, you can request them over on my website under shop as well. Thanks again for joining me, Gina. Thanks for all your hard work moderating tonight, and I'll see you with me next Monday. Have a great evening.